Hi there. This is Q&A with Trinity Holy. I've received quite a number of questions from the ministration I had in previous times, where a number of people were asking, what does it take for one to be caught up in heaven? Do you have to be a man of God, a pastor, a prophet, an apostle, and all these kind of titles? So what I can say to that is that God calls the nobodies. If you feel like you don't qualify, just know that the election of grace has picked you. If you feel like you don't qualify, God does not work with the people of high profile already. Of course, He can sometimes, just like Saul in the book of Samuel. He worked with Saul. He was already a person that people regarded already and stuff. But there are people like Samuel who were like a nobody in the temple, spent time in the presence of God, and they were elected by God's grace. Jeremiah, the rest of the prophets, and other sons of God. And to be very much honest with you, these people is not like for people to eventually make impact as prophets. They started off knowing that they were prophets. It all started as a relationship with God. That's why you see that when he speaks to Jeremiah, he says, before I formed you, I knew you. Meaning to say, even Jeremiah himself, he could not remember the relationship he had with God before time began, in eternity past. So the fact that you are a nobody, you feel like you don't qualify, that means grace qualifies you. Why? Because of the power of the cross. We have been redeemed by Christ. So when grace has qualified you, then what's the next step? Of course, you've got to love prayer and all these other things that I've been teaching on. However, the most important thing that you need to adapt to, it's a relationship with God. The most important key, it's a relationship with God. And when you now have that relationship with God, you learn to wait on God. When you wait on God, He reveals Himself to you, or you reveal the deep things to you through revelation, through mysteries, through all kinds of ways. So some are saying, me, I'm just a housewife. I don't work. Me, I'm just a woman. I've never really heard women speak about these things. Do we also qualify? Yes. There is neither male nor female before the presence of God. These things, to say male or female, they work here on earth to somewhat, yes, but when it comes to spiritual matters, those things, they don't work at all. In this season that we are in, women are actually the ones that have received more grace. So it's actually a season for women to rise and shine, as the book of Isaiah says. It's a season for women to rise and shine. For the glory of God has risen upon us. The glory of the Lord is now upon all the sons of God. So women, it's time you begin to spend more time speaking in tongues. It's time you spend more time reading the word, meditating on His word, praying for your loved ones, praying for the entire universe. Whatever that the Holy Spirit lays in your heart, begin to pray for it. Before you know it, you are desiring these encounters with God in heaven and His angels. You are going to begin to unlock a realm. Why? Because God sees that this person is not lazy. But if you are lazy, there's a question mark. So if you are that kind of a person that's available to be used as an instrument, you're a good candidate. If you check most of these prophets, how they were called, God did not even speak about that they were prophets. These are things they discover at a later stage. To say it's because God does not push titles, He pushes a relationship and obedience. Obedience and a relationship. Those are the two keys that God really looks at. So these are the factors that we look at, say, oh, this guy is an apostle. It's something that you eventually discover at a later stage to say, oh, actually, I'm a prophet. He now tells you you're a prophet. So you can discover that you're actually a prophet or an apostle or whatever it is, like whatever title that you maybe you have without your knowledge. The Lord will reveal it at a later stage. But if you put a title ahead of you, you must certainly know that you're not going anywhere, because a relationship with God doesn't work with titles. For you to be perfect in your relationship with God, for you to please God rather, you must be a humble servant. So if you put a title, there are certain things that you start logically thinking, no, this how can I do this when there is so and so smaller than me? How can I do this when there is this person? So you cease your duties from serving God. You now send others instead of you serving God. Is it a ministry? If it's time to clean toilets, you clean. If it's time to clean the church, you clean the church. If it's time to give, you give. There is no part where you say, this I will not do. So God pushes obedience and a relationship. Like I indicated on this previous video, the place where I said the Lord began to speak to me from, it was actually an orphanage. I grew up in an orphanage, but however, I've got both parents. So the conflict of interest between them is the one that tossed me to and from until I ended up in this very place where God wanted me to be. So God wanted me to be in a place where I'll be able to hear his voice. And I believe had I been with them, maybe I wasn't going to walk according to how God wanted me to walk in this walk. So whatever positioning that you are in, it should not be a reason. You have both parents or you don't have both parents. You have this or you don't have food. You don't put anything between you and your God, because the very thing that you are putting, that thing turns out to be your God. God bless you. Shalom.